Hey, what's up, everybody? I am here in Reidsville, North Carolina with Pete from GCI Turf. Thank you to our show sponsors, Echo, Kohler Engines, Site One, and Nice Job for making this all possible. And most importantly, thank you to you, Pete, on a Saturday morning for making time that we can come and hear the GCI Turf story. You have been a highly recommended guest that I come and visit you, so I'm thankful to be here.
Sure. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, when I saw those stripes in the front yard, I was like, I found it.
Yeah. Well, the shop yard looks kind of rough right now.
Yeah, I think the guys up north with the cooler season turf, it looks like their stripes are always looking better. And down here, I live in Georgia,
Yeah.
North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. It seems to be difficult to get that lush green and stripe, but you pulled it off out there.
Yeah. I've been doing it a little while. So we kind of got cool season and warm season here.
Yeah, it's like transitional.
So you get kind of the best of both worlds. And I'm going all Bermuda here at the shop. And then, of course, I got my fescue and Kentucky bluegrass at the shop. At my house. Excuse me.
Okay. So tell us a little bit of the GCI origin story, how you got started.
Well, I was about to get married 20 years ago. And the job I was working at the time, I got fired for something I really didn't do, but that's a different story. And of course, my wife was freaking out, or my soon-to-be wife was freaking out. Well, how, you lost your job, and we're getting married in a month.
Wow.
And so it was kind of like, ooh. But I kind of had always had a passion for keeping my yard nice, keep having some nice grass and mowing, and I just love mowing grass. And, one of the neighbors, or my wife had bought a home. She bought her first home, or my soon-to-be wife had bought her first home, and one of her neighbors down the street said, "Hey, help me with my yard." I was like, "Sure, we'll do that." And so I helped him. And then one of his buddies said, "You help me with mine?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it just clicked. And I said, "Well, let's do landscaping, lawn care." And that's kind of how it all started.
Those were your first few customers.
Yeah, just kind of off a little word of mouth type thing.
Did you have a mower or weed eater, blower? How did you have the equipment?
I didn't have any. I had like a little 1992 Toyota truck. It was my little daily driver. And I picked up a little, I think it was an Echo, like a little curved shaft weed eater.
Okay.
I picked up from Home Depot or somewhere like that. And then I didn't even own a blower. I had to borrow my neighbor's blower to use that. And then I didn't own a trailer. So I went to my dad and said, "Hey, I need to borrow your trailer. I'm mowing yards for a living." And so he let me borrow it, and it didn't even have a gate on it, a ramp. I had the little 2x4s.
Yeah.
I'd slide them off the back and go in and out like that. And then the mower, it was like a little, what was that thing? It was like a 21-inch something that we just had around, and I used it for a while, and then I kind of graduated pretty quickly to it was a Toro 36-inch walk behind with the
belt drive,
the belt drive that the handlebars kind of went, kind of wobbly.
That's how you get those forearms.
Yeah, it was kind of weird driving that thing, man. And but that's how I started, and I rode like that for the first 12 to 16 months, roughly. And I worked an incredible amount of hours.
So you got married in this season?
Yep.
So that put a fire under your butt to get out there and provide.
Oh man, yeah, you got to make money, man. Mama's got to eat.
No money, no honey.
That's right. And we were in a pretty fortunate situation because she was a nurse.
Oh,
she used to be a nurse, so she made pretty good money, and she carried the benefits and all that. And I just kind of went out and done my hustle. And when I say I went door to door, I basically went door to door saying, "Hey, I'll cut your grass. I own a lawn care company." I was
Did
excited.
you have a card, a flyer, or you were just showing up, knocking the door? And
No, I didn't do any cards. I just went and told them.
Straight up.
Yeah, I opened my mouth and told them.
And so that word of mouth marketing, you just started to pick up clients, and this is in Reidsville, or?
Yeah. I tried to keep it close. I mean, you know, and everything I worked out of my home, my little starter home, which is kind of right down the street, and I finally made enough money to buy my first zero turn.
Oh wow!
And that was an X mark.
Yeah.
Laser Z or Sting,
Yeah.
whatever that thing is, and oh man, it was on then. I could mow so many more yards in a day, and I actually ended up putting headlights on it. So I mowed at night. I had this trailer park that I hooked up with, and I worked it out with them where I could mow that after dark.
Wow.
And so I would be out there on Thursday or Fridays and mowing from 9 till 10:30 at night with headlights.
And then how did the company grow from there? Did you get a first employee? Did it, because it sounds like you just kept picking up accounts. Eventually it was too much for you to handle, I'm imagining.
You know, 20 years ago, you know, I kind of jumped in it at the right time. You know, everybody and the brother didn't have a mower and a trailer when I kind of got started. And so, yeah, you're right. It just kind of spiraled and went crazy those first 3 or 4 years. And I'm trying to remember, where were we at? I want to say about 4 years in, 3 years in, is when we had to start looking for an employee.
Oh, wow.
And one of my best buds, who worked at a cotton mill, I think is where he worked. And I kind of started talking to him, say, hey, why don't you come help me? And we got the money right and, you know, what he needed to have to work.
Yeah.
And he came on, and we worked side by side for a while. Then I was like, man, I need another guy. The phone is ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
And it's still at that point, I hadn't done any marketing, zero. Matter of fact, to even till today, I haven't done any real, true marketing. It's just all word of mouth, organic growth. And we put on our second employee, and then I put those guys in a truck by themselves.
Wow.
And I said, dang, I can buy me a second truck now, and I can do double the work. It was like magic for me. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. And that's what we did. And it kept rocking and rolling like that. And
what year was this when you had the guy from the cotton mill, and then you went ahead and got the second guy on with him, or?
Yeah, and he actually came from the same place of employment as the first guy. And I want to say it was around probably year 4 or 5-ish.
Okay.
I think my first guy, Brandon, had been with me for maybe 9 to 12 months, just me and him.
Yeah.
Before we put on a third guy.
And was your wife still nursing then, or was she helping you with the administration stuff?
No. She was still doing nursing.
Okay, so you're running everything.
Oh, yeah.
Billing, making sure the yards get cut, taking in the calls.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing it all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't until we put up a little, the little outdoor carport, $1,200 throw-up carport things.
Yeah.
We put one of those at the house at the same starter home. And, of course, I worked out of that.
Okay.
Put my mowers and, trimmers.
Sharpening blades. And
everything was in that little outdoor carport. And done the office work in the house, in the kitchen there. And we got to the point to where we had 3 or 4 employees, and they were all coming to the house and parking on the side of the road. I was like, we got to do something different. And so we started looking for somewhere to rent or buy.
Yeah.
And where we're at right now is what I found.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 buildings on property on site, and one of them in the back was for rent. And it's about 4,000 square feet, maybe 3,000, 4,000. And so we come over here, started renting there, and the operation went to there, and then the office stayed at home. And of course, I came here to work every day, went out on a crew like anybody else would, and I got home, and that's when I would do all the billing and invoicing and all the stuff.
Yeah. This was back in the day, so they probably didn't have the CRMs that they have now. How were you collecting all the money and staying on top of making sure you're getting paid from the work you did?
We handwritten invoices and stuck them in the mail. Yeah, old
school.
Super old school.
They'd send you a check.
And they'd send me a check, and then we keep on rolling. Or even sometimes they'd pay us on the spot.
Yeah.
Go out and mow Johnny's yard.
Check under the mat in the grill.
Yep.
Hand you the money. So at this point, you're mowing, edging, trimming, and blowing.
Mm-hmm.
What point did you start to understand the fertilization, weed control, and the enhancements and the other aspects of lawn maintenance and landscaping?
I went and played a round of golf by myself solo one day, and I've always had a gift to be able to hit the golf ball a real long ways.
Really?
Yeah. And I was in the Remax World Long.
Oh,
Finals.
the long drive contest?
Yeah, I finished 10th in the world in 2002. So,
wow.
What
driver do you use?
At that time, I was sponsored by Pinnacle and Cobra.
Okay.
One of my sponsors. So I used Cobra stuff, obviously. And
8 degree, 7 degree?
my competition clubs were 4 and 5.
Oh, that's how you really hit it far.
Oh, yeah.
Real low.
Oh, no, I hit it extremely
Well, I mean
high.
the degree of the driver
Right.
was low.
Right. But
You
my 4 degree goes extremely high.
How far did you hit it when you placed 10th in 2002? What was your?
I think I got put out at 375 yards, I believe, and the other guy was like 378 or something.
Wow. So, what state was that in?
That was in Mesquite, Nebraska.
Okay.
Mesquite, Nebraska. Mesquite. What's Mesquite?
I don't know.
Nevada.
It's
Nevada.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to watch that on TV.
Oh yeah. I was one place off from the money round. And that's the TV round.
Okay.
Which would have really been cool. But I played this round of golf. I was by myself, and I didn't see the guy in front of me, and I hit my drive and went clean over his head, and then I rolled up. He's like, what are you doing, dude? You hit into me. I was like, I didn't see you. And we ended up playing that round of golf together and he was a surgeon and lived in a very fancy gated community over in Greensboro. And he was at, what do you do? What do you do? That kind of thing. And I said, on lawn care company, we cut grass and do that. And he's like, man, I despise mowing my grass. I was like, really? Well, I'll mow it for you. And so, bingo, I went and jumped in with him and got in his gated neighborhood community and just happened to notice all the yards. And I was like, man, that grass is so pretty.
Yeah.
I want to go touch it. And, I'm like, man, this looks so good. How do you do this?
So you were used to kind of mowing a mixture of weeds and hodgepodge out in the country.
Yeah.
And their grass was weed-free, lush looking.
Now my personal yard, I kept it really tight, really nice, and, no weeds and nothing like that. So I had general basic knowledge, weed killer and fertilizer. But, when you get up in these gated communities, they're like, these are top-of-the-line turf grass yards, and, they're taken care of to a very high standard. And I was like, I want my yards to look like that. Matter of fact, I want my yard to look better than that. And so I actually hired the big national company and said, hey, y'all need to come treat all my yards. That way I ain't got to do it because I ain't have a license or anything like that to spray. And they did, and things looked a little bit better. And then over the course of 6 or 8 months or so, or maybe a year, I was like, I got weeds over here, and this don't look that good, and this don't look as like I want it to. And I complained a little bit, obviously, and nothing got done. And so I finally said, you know what? I'm going to do this stuff myself. And so from that point on, which, I don't know, we'll probably – and actually, my timeline's a little off. I think we actually started the weed control portion to some extent when I was still at my starter home.
Okay.
working out of that. I think my timeline's a little off. Because we've been in the weed control portion of this for about 14, 15 years.
Okay.
But
the guy you played golf with that lived in the fancy schmancy neighborhood, did he become your customer?
Oh yeah, yeah. He was my first ever contract. He was like my first ever 12-month contract, and where we get paid 12 months out of the year.
He had Bermudas, Alasia. What do you have?
Oh no, it's all fescue.
Oh, okay.
It's all fescue. Yeah, and then we're still doing his yard today.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, it's really good looking turf, and I wanted to do it myself just because I wasn't getting any results from the other guys. And so I basically started teaching myself, all this lawn care stuff, fertilization, weed control, disease control, pre-emergent, post-emergent, the whole 9 yards. And I would have little test areas at my starter home where I lived, and I would try different varieties of fescue and fertilize them this way, water them this way, this kind of weed control. And I just basically self-taught myself how to do all that stuff.
And then how did you get from that point to all these buildings are yours now, correct?
Yes, sir.
This whole thing. So how in the world did you get from that point to really expanding and growing into where things are at today?
Well, like I said, we've never really done any, true marketing. I ran an ad in the Yellow Pages one time. It was $1,500 for a year, and not the first person called.
Wow.
Off that, yeah, because we tracked it to see how many people going to call off this, and none. I was like, well, the heck with this crap. I'm going to give you $1,500 and not getting anything out of return. So it's all been organic, word of mouth, and probably I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe. The gentleman that owned all this property, the building you and I are sitting in now used to be a church.
Okay.
And he rented this space out to a church, and the church left and went to the city. And the guy that owns the property said, "Hey, you want to buy?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been ready to buy, brother." And so we bought everything, and then just kind of reorganized it and all the way we wanted it. And when we're fully staffed now, we're 15 employees.
Wow. Now,
including the folks in the office, and it's really just been organic, man. I haven't done any average. Now, let me take it back. The online thing. Now that I have a YouTube channel, that there's no doubt in my mind that is helping the local company, because we do get phone calls say, "Hey, I saw Pete on YouTube, and I want him to do my yard." That kind of thing.
But that's free marketing too. YouTube, you can publish the video for free.
Oh yeah, I don't spend any money on it.
Right.
I know folks that spend money on the advertising part online and make the video go to more
boost
people.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm not gonna spend my money like that. So I just let happen what happens.
Yeah. What services and products does your company offer now?
Locally, we do two things, and that's it. And I've intentionally limited it to two things. One is full-blown maintenance, where we do, the mowing, weed control, fertilizer, seeding, leaves, pruning. We take care of the entire property our way, so it looks like I want it to look.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The second division is fertilizer, weed control, where we do a lawn care program, seeding, that kind of thing, and whoever cuts the grass. I don't care who cuts it. Most of them, they're homeowners that cut their grass. And so we have those two things locally, and then the internet is basically a full-blown e-commerce business.
Yes, sir.
So I make videos on YouTube, say, "Hey, look at my grass. This is how I do it. Here's what I used. You can go buy it here."
And then when they go to your website and buy it, how does it get to their front door?
Well, we have a full-blown fulfillment set up back here, where I've got folks in the office that come in and go through the orders and print the shipping labels off and box the product, box the material, and get everything loaded up. And UPS comes by once, sometimes twice a day, and picks up a couple of loads of stuff and sends it on up out of here.
Did the internet business, with customers across the United States instead of here in a small, 20-mile radius or whatnot, was that intentional, or did you just kind of stumble on it as you were showing off your skill set and properties, and then it just kind of happened, or did you plan it the whole time?
Oh heck no, I don't plan anything. So I'm just kind of a seat of the pants.
Yeah.
If something happens, let's go do it kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I had at that point in time, I had about 600 clients here locally.
Wow.
About 600 customers, and I wanted to send them a video to say, hey, this is how we do this.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get the point across talking it to them, so I wanted to show it to them. So obviously at that point in history, I don't even know if you could do it now. Can you send 600 people an email with a video attached to it?
Yes, I think it's called MailChimp or Chimp or something like that.
Well,
there's I don't know.
Okay, I don't think you can. You have to embed.
Oh,
I
see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you know how if I text you a video, I
just
put the video
to 600 people. Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
It's I think it's hard to do. So I couldn't figure it out at that point in time. So I said, okay, I need to figure this out. So I found YouTube.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a YouTube.
What year was this?
Oh gosh, this was 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe. And so I loaded the video to YouTube and sent all my customers the link.
Yeah.
And said, watch this. This is what I think it was like a leaf blowing video or something. And I didn't realize everybody else
could watch
the video too. And I start reading these comments, and they're like, how you do this? How you do that? And I was like, well, hang on, give me a minute. Let me make a video. I'll show you.
Yeah.
And it just spiraled out of control like that. And I had one gentleman, I started talking about turf grass and started showing my yard where I live now, which people were just amazed because it's non-irrigated fescue. And I was in the middle of July and August, and it's just glowing like a new penny. And they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, it's easy. Let me show you.
Yeah.
And I had one dude email me or call me or something, say, hey, can you write me up a guide how to do all this stuff to your yard? And I was like, sure. And he said, I'll give you $50. I was like, well, I don't want your money. Here's the write-up. Take it. And then another guy did it, and the light bulb went off just like that. I'm like, gosh, these guys will pay money to let me tell them how to grow turf. And so that's kind of where the whole academy thing came from. And then on top of that, I had one of my best buds now. He's one of my best friends now. Lives up in Virginia. He hit me up because I had a bag of grass seed in the background of one of my videos. I've always custom blended my seed to use here, so it's best for the transition hot environment. And he messaged me and said, "Hey, let me buy a bag of that grass seed." I was like, "No, you ain't getting my seed, man." And we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and he got his hands on the bag, and that right there and kind of sparked the whole grass seed idea. And so now we got basically a full lineup of grass seeds that we have on the internet.
So you got the GCI Academy's got training and guides of how to kind of DIY and get your grass looking good, and then you actually have the product, the seeds, and that's not just a market, 20-mile radius or whatnot. That's United States. Are you going outside the United States, or who's all getting all that?
It goes to everywhere but Alaska and Hawaii.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Alaska and Hawaii.
Yeah.
The shipping costs are crazy. And
then you still have the hundreds of customers here regionally that you actually are doing their fertilization, weed control program, and mowing. Yes, sir. Correct. And that 15 employees, does that cover the whole, all of it, both what you're maintaining plus what you're doing with the GCI Academy? Yes, correct. Yeah, most of the guys are back there in the back. The office stuff. The office stuff. We actually had one, which one's my wife, and she has since
quit the nursing.
Okay.
Yeah, we come to a point with my son 10 years ago when he was born. He's got a lot of medical things, and it was incredibly hard for me. I'd be up at 12, 1, 2 o'clock doing paperwork and stuff for the mowing, and she would be, we had I got 3 kids.
Okay.
And this was the 3rd kid born, and I was just like, it's hard. And she pulled me in there one day, and she sat me down. She said, I want to quit work. And I was like, you lost your mind. You make $60,000 a year, and you want to quit, and we just mow grass. And I was like, you crazy woman. And she got me back in there, and she said, just pray about it. Just pray about it, and let's see what happens. And I did. I was very diligent in my prayer in that for a couple of weeks, and at that point in time, it just seemed right. And I went back and I said, you know what? I think God wants us to, let's do this. You quit work, and you help me out on the office part, and then you'll have way more time to help with the kids and do all the kid stuff that kids do during the day with school and all that mess. And when we made that change, we haven't looked back. I mean, we have went straight uphill ever since then. And so it was a great choice to get her to stay at home. And then, of course, she's in the office now, and her and Sadie and Colby and then my oldest son, Eli, they all working here. And Colby and Sadie and my wife do a lot of the local stuff, calls and all that kind of thing. And they, my wife pretty much runs the online fulfillment part of things. And then, of course, the other guys in here, they do the boxing and packing orders and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned having this big decision with your wife's career and praying about it. How else has your walk with the Lord, how's that influenced growing your business and making decisions with your business and the culture around here?
I was there. I don't do lawn care for a living. I am first and foremost a believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ, and my life is His. I live my life for Him, and everything I do revolves around Him. I'm just happen to do lawn care for a living. I would much rather people see me as I'm not a pastor, but as a believer, you're called to, hey, go out and spread the word, and that's first and foremost what I want to be. And then after that, you can look at me as a husband, a father, hopefully a good husband, hopefully a good dad, and then the lawn care guy. And I just happen to do yards for a living, but man, at the end of the day, none of that stuff has eternal value. So I'm first and foremost, I'm all about some Jesus.
Yeah, how did you get to that point in your life? What was your testimony or story of how you connected with Jesus like that?
I grew up in church, typical Southern type of stuff. Mom and dad Sunday morning, get up, let's go to church, and I did that, and never really got it, to be honest with you. And I was right after I got out of high school, I really got into some hardcore drugs and just doing all the worldly stuff, alcohol, drugs, as many girls as I could find, spiraling out of control. And it was during that time I played softball and had been dating this girl, and I couldn't play on their church softball team unless I went to church.
Okay.
They said, hey, you have to come to church 2 weeks a month. I was like, crap, okay, I'll go. And it was just then God just started. I was old enough where I could listen and comprehend grace. And I could comprehend mercy and love. And when the pastor was speaking his truth to me, God just started grabbing me, man. And that's when I said, you know what, I'm gonna give my life to you. And I did that, accepted Christ, and then 2 or 3 years went on down the road, and I kind of fell off the track a little bit, you know, and kind of like that prodigal son type thing. He went off and done his own deal, and I got really, really involved in cocaine and ecstasy pills and some super hardcore type drugs. And one night, man, we went out, and I almost done an entire 8-ball of cocaine by myself. And I was laying there trying to go to bed, and my heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest. I could literally look down at my chest and see my heart, like just jarring. And I just, right then and there, God was like, I was like, you know what? I know better than this. I belong to a king. And here I am laying in some guy's floor, and I can't even go to sleep because I'm so jacked up. And I went outside. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I know people thought I was crazy if they saw me. I was sprinting up and down the road right here in downtown, trying to get the cocaine to wear off.
Yeah.
Get out of me so I can go to bed. And I went back and went inside and lay down, and I said, Lord, if you will put me to sleep and let me rest, when I get up tomorrow, I'm yours. And since that day, I slept like a champion, like a baby. And since that day, my life has been drastically and radically different for the gospel.
That's cool, Pete.
Yep. And I don't plan on changing either, because once God gets you and wraps you up like he does, and shows you all this cool stuff that he can do for you when you serve him, I don't want another life.
Yeah. What would you say? Most of my audience is just, I look at the analytics, like 91% men, and a lot of folks, a lot of lawn care professionals, landscapers, hardscapers that listen to the show, and maybe it's not hardcore drugs or things of that, but it just feel like something's missing in life, and there's just this gap. And they hear you share this story, and like, man, Pete found something that I want. What's that bridge or connection? How did they have what you have?
Well, it starts with God's word, with the Bible, and of course, you know, we live in a culture now where there's many different religion. You know, when I say the word religion, I like to put my little quotations around it, because they're man-made. You know, men come up with these things, and then people follow them because they believe it. Well, there's only one truth, and that's the truth straight out of the Creator's mouth, and we get that from God's word in the Bible. And that's where you start. That's where you have to start to get that relationship with Christ, and accept that he actually was here on earth, you know, 2,000 some years ago, whatever it was. And, you know, we're broken people. You know, we have sin where we, you know, do wrong. People say we do wrong things, and yeah, they're wrong, but at the end of the day, it's sin because it's disobedience to God. And you need a forgiveness for that sin, and we get that through Jesus, when God sent his son here to die for those sins. And it's a radical transformation for me. I mean, to know that I am a child of the living Creator of the universe. I belong to him. And it's hard to put into words when I get to really dig into my faith, because I belong to the greatest power in the known cosmos, and nobody can take that from me, because God has promised that to me. Good stuff.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you sharing your testimony of how you found Jesus. Was it a cold turkey? Did you stop the ecstasy and cocaine, or was it still like a teeter-totter?
Brother, when I went to bed that night and when I woke up, I was different. I can't explain it to you. I can't tell you. I can't give you some kind of scientific reason of what changed. There's no doubt in my mind God reached in my heart and grabbed me and said, I'm yours now. You are mine, period. And I just made a cold turkey change. Even my buddies, when we woke up the next morning, they were like, why are you up so early? I said, I'm going to church, brother.
Wow.
Like, church? Man, you ain't been to church in 3 years. And no, that it was literally a radical 360 change. And that I still cannot explain to this day. And, I went from every single night doing cocaine and partying to going to bed and waking up. Now my life revolves around Christ, period. There is no exceptions to that.
Was your lawn care business started after you started walking with Jesus, or was this during this? Were you doing this?
Oh no, this was before I accepted Christ when I was about 23 years old,
Okay.
roughly. And so this was before the lawn care company come along. And so, of course, when we started the lawn care company, I was married, obviously, not making a lot of money. And through our church, we done the Dave Ramsey program.
Okay.
I know a whole lot of people know Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And you talking about financially life-changing. If you haven't ever done that, you need to do it. And it talks about the snowball and saving money and putting money up and all that kind of thing. And when my wife and I got out of debt doing that.
How much debt did you have to tackle?
That's going to be a hard question because that was many moons ago. And my memory ain't quite as good as it used to be. We had the typical credit cards, 2 or 3 credit cards. She had 2 or 3. I had 2 or 3. Matter of fact, my credit was so pathetic that when I went to get my first cell phone with my wife as a couple, as a married couple, I was in line and the lady leaned over the corner and said, Mr. Denny, we can't give you your cell phone. Your credit isn't good. And I was like, dang, that's pretty bad credit.
Yeah.
You can't even get a cell phone. So I had to call my wife and say, hey, you need to come up here and sign with me on this. And but we worked through all that using the Dave Ramsey thing.
And you paid all of it off.
Paid all credit cards off. Whatever it is we owed, gone. And now the way we live our life financially, we're very comfortable. God's blessed us considerably with the local company, the online business. But there's something that folks need to know, that this stuff isn't mine. Okay? These jugs back here you see with this fertilizer, that stuff ain't mine. God, this all belongs to the Lord. He give all this to me. I'm just a manager of it. So the money part of that, he gets it first, period.
Yeah.
He gets what is required. And then on top of that, God's blessed me with a desire to give, to help people. And so my wife and I, through a foundation, we help people that have disabled children like mine. And then on top of that, we like to give stuff, whether it be money, help, time, a bag of fertilizer. I'm at people coming in all the time, and I say, here, just take that bag right there. Just take it and have a good day. And they just they look at me weird, like, why do you just give stuff away?
So your personal life's debt-free now with your house and all that stuff?
For the most part. We still owe some money on our home because we bought a pretty nice home. It's hard to pay a $200,000 house off overnight. Yeah. No matter who you are. But that, where we're at now, was a God thing too. I mean, we where I'm at now, that home was about 80 grand above our budget. And we had a budget of about 200 grand at the point in time we was ready to buy our final living house. And we went in the community we're in now, they were all like 250 to 280. I was like, ain't no need. We can't even look at these houses, sugar. Let's go ride down the road and look at the little stuff down here. And we had been looking at one at the end of the road, and we come back up, and the house where I'm now is on the corner, just an old field-looking yard. Crap, it had like 3 bushes in the front of it and nothing else. And Tammy was like, well, let's look at this one. I was like, man, that house is on the corner. Look at the lot. It's terrible. It just looks I don't even want to look at this one. And she kept on pushing me. We actually went back and found out that the house had been in foreclosure for 3 years. And Tammy finally talked me into it and said, hey, you can make the lot what you want it. You can make the outside.
Yeah.
And, you have a blank canvas, do whatever you want to do. And so we went back and we met the realtor there. And I remember we made her an offer of $200 as our budget. And we sat right there with the realtor. Me and Tammy and the realtor prayed over the contract right there in the kitchen. And we left, and in 2 weeks, over the phone, we bought that house.
Wow.
Nothing else. We made them one offer. We prayed over it, and in 2 weeks, with about 3 different phone calls, we owned that house.
That's awesome. And then how has going through the Dave Ramsey and cleaning up the debt and living on less you make, giving, doing the whole, I'm an avid listener of his program. I really love what they're doing. How does that influence this operation? Because managing a personal budget's small compared to 15 employees in a big old operation. How has those principles helped guide this operation?
Well, my business is the same way. And I've always used this little saying to keep it simple to people. If you make $10, you can't spend 11. It's basic. And people look at that and they're like, that's just too simple. But it is simple. Yeah. If you make 10, don't spend 11, period. And that's the way I operate my company, the entire business, And of course, you have to charge, sufficient amounts to make the right margins and the profits and all that. That's all the math and the business thing but behind everything. But the overarching theme is if you make $10, don't spend 11. Yeah. And so we really try and do that. If we have a piece of equipment we want to get, I check my math and my bank account, and if I got enough money to pay for it,
in cash up front,
absolutely I do. That way, that piece of equipment is mine, and I don't owe anybody a dime for it. Another thing that we actually have used often, is the Sheffield Financial.
Yeah,
that is I love it because I get to use. Excuse me. I love the Sheffield Financial thing because I get to use their money for 4 years, free, 0% interest. So I love those things. So I take advantage of stuff like that, and we pay our employees as good as we can possibly pay them, and the company still makes some money, and I try to feed Christ into my employees. I got some guys that work for me that, have had trouble past, kind of like me, and they're in a different position in life now. They're working probably paycheck to paycheck, and I try to feed into them and help them with life, not just give them a job. I tell my guys, say, hey, I'm your boss, but before I'm your boss, I'm your friend.
Yeah.
And you can come to me and you can ask me for help if you need it. Don't ever think you're less of a man if you have to ask somebody for help. Because we've been there, done that. We've had to ask. And I, when my guys come to me and ask, it's part of my responsibility as a believer and a business owner, a believing business owner, to help them in the name of Jesus. And, that's what I do.
Well, Pete, I've been a recipient of your generosity today. I appreciate you carving out time on a Saturday morning to join our show. How can folks connect with you on YouTube, Instagram, your website, the GCI Academy? Let us know how they can connect.
Everything, just Google GCI Turf, and bam.
There you go.
There it is, brother. It's everywhere.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time, Pete. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cool.